Good to be here. Jenny last week was a little worried about my jeans that had a hole in them, so I wore some better ones this morning. These have patches all underneath them. Jenny? Yeah. They're high? No, it's just a patch. It's a patch.
It's not leggings or something.
I know you do, so I thought about that this morning. I said, I'm going to wear some nice jeans for Jenny today. The great thing about Jenny, she dishes them, but she can take it. I love that Jenny. Y'all know how much I love Jenny. All right, y'all ready to talk about Jonah?
Yes.
Jonah. What were you thinking? Jonah. The question I will have for him most likely when I make it to heaven. All right, well, I'm going to go through all the intro stuff, and so we'll get down to my opinion, the good stuff after I go through this. So, I don't know if I've ever done an introduction, so I just kept thinking, I kept seeing, I should probably put that in there. So I'm like, okay, I need to probably stop. So anyway, I got some, I think, interesting things. All right, so Jonah, son of Amittai, that's my best guess at what that Hebrew word is. So Jonah means dove, Amittai means my truth. So, you're welcome. I have no idea how to tie that to the whale or anything. But, okay, so and we're not sure who the author of Jonah was. It could have been Jonah or it could have been one of his associates. And even though Jonah was a prophet, the book of Jonah reads more like a historical narrative than prophecy. So, like if you think about Elijah and the stories of Elijah and Elisha, even though those stories are not in their own book, that's sort of how Jonah reads, is more of a narrative. Which makes it really, I think it would be like a really great movie or a miniseries. I mean, don't you think? Yes. So Jonah ministered during the 8th century. He was a contemporary of Amos and Hosea, who also were prophets and have their own books and stuff. And get this. So this is a mind-blowing thing for the woman who, as a little girl, got to go to the Pharaoh's ice cream place if she memorized all the books in the Bible in order. Okay? So basically, Jonah happened just before Elijah and Elisha. Now that blows my mind. Because you mean Elijah and Elijah are way in front of the book, right? And Jonah is toward the end. But anyway, again, that's the truth there. So King Jeroboam II was reigning. His reign was 793 to 753 BC. As Jonah had prophesied, this was a very politically prosperous but spiritually dark time for the nation. And nationalism was really high. One thing I read said that it was even kind of compared to the days of David and Solomon. So on the surface, things were good, but spiritually, things were not that great. So Jonah is considered a minor prophet, and this is something I learned because I'd always wondered, what is the deal with minor and major prophets? Okay, so Jonah was considered a minor prophet, meaning he was a prophet for a relatively short time. Now, that doesn't mean 3 weeks, but, Samuel was 2 centuries or something. Samuel was always a prophet, all the way through, 1 Chronicles or something. So anyway, so he was a shorter time and he had specific messages to deliver. So Samuel, whatever God needed to say, he would just go and say it, right? So I guess Jonah was more specific, these are the themes of the message that you're going to deliver. All right, so just a little bit of map and geography for you. Modern day Syria is present day northern Iraq, northwestern Turkey, and northeastern Syria. So that actually means very little to me without looking at a map. But I wanted you to know that, okay? So it's very important. And then modern day Tarshish, where Jonah tried to flee to, is present-day southern Spain. So if you think about like distance in miles back in ancient times, that's pretty far, right? I'm not the geography scholar, but that's pretty far, right? When you don't have planes and really fast ships and stuff. So yeah, he tried to run. He totally tried to run. So this is interesting to me too. The last 2 things in this little intro to the intro, Jonah and the whale. So even if you were someone who went to vacation Bible school with your neighbor one day out of your entire life, you probably know about Jonah and the whale, right? Whether that was the theme of your Bible study, vacation Bible study, there was a poster of the big whale and all that. So, what was that? That was Jonah and the whale. So you probably know about Jonah and the whale, and whether you know much about the Bible. And what's funny is this is one of the main stories in the Bible that people, and even some Christians, do not believe really happened. Mm-hmm. And like, I get that, humanly, like I get that. Like, I mean, it's crazy to even think about, you know, what it was like in the belly of a whale. Because my mind immediately goes to VeggieTales. Like, right? And like, he's having a little concert in there, and I mean, that is not what it was like, okay? So yeah, it's hard to like fathom that, but I mean, you know, the deal is, I guess those people, like, they don't really know like the Almighty God, right?
All
so
right.
I mean, it's, you know, that's a no-brainer for God. If He wants you in the belly of a whale today, that's where you'll be. So, you know, so don't disobey. I mean, we could go now. So anyway, but yeah, so a lot of people just believe that this was symbolic and whatever, and I just found that interesting, I guess. And then the last thing, you know, again, but so I read, I don't know, like in 2 places that Jonah was a Christ figure, and I'm like, what? Like, I mean, like, I'm trying to figure this out. Like, beyond, like, I mean, the 3 days in the grave, the 3 days in the belly, I don't get the connection. Like, I'm not a Bible scholar, but I don't see it, okay? Because I don't remember Jesus, like, you know, pouting and, like, throwing a fit and running. Like, I don't remember any of that. I asked my husband last night, I was like, would you consider Jonah to be a Christ figure? And he was like, Jonah? And I was like, yeah, Jonah. He was like, Jonah, like Jonah in the well? Yes, like, how many Jonahs do you know? Yes, Jonah in the well. And so he was like, no. So I was like, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. So that's my little introduction to the introduction of Jonah. So let me tell you what we're not going to see in Jonah. And this bugs me, okay? First of all, what we don't see in Jonah is we don't know Jonah's track record as a prophet. Like, I mean, that bugs the heck out of me. Like, because I'm one of these, like, optimistic people that think, you know, maybe poor Jonah was just having a bad month. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe he was just having a bad month. Like, I have bad months. I have bad years. You know what I'm saying? So, like, maybe he was just a little off this particular month. I mean, come on, God, would it be too much to ask for it to be like, then God spoke to Jonah, the son of Amittai, comma, who was usually a very reliable and obedient prophet, and told him to go to Nineveh. But we don't get any of that. We do know that, you know, the whole Nineveh episode happened toward the end of, you know, Jonah's time as a prophet. You know, obviously. I mean, you know, he sort of blew it, right? Like the whole running and pouting and trying to kill himself and all that. So we don't know his track record. You know, I would like to believe that he, you know, he had done some good. We know that he had prophesied to Jeroboam, and so I don't know. We don't know, and that bugs me. That really bugs me. The other thing that we don't know is we don't know what happened after the Nineveh episode. Like, it just ends with God asking the question, why can't I not be merciful to who I want to be merciful to? And I'm like, I need to know, like, what happened next? I mean, you know, was he like, you know, did God come down and with lightning and the ground opened up and it swallowed Jonah? Like, what happened? Did he go home to his wife and be like, you would not believe what we did? You know? I mean, did he repent, which would be the most, you know, hopeful situation as far as I'm concerned. I wish that he had repented. I wish he had just figured out that he was being a total jerk and, you know, that he got it all straight with God and went on to do, like, right now. I think we don't know, okay? So we're just kind of left to our own imagination, which is always very dangerous for me. But you know, I mean, we don't. These are things that we don't get to know. So anyway, but I'll tell you what, we're gonna see a lot of Jonah. We're gonna see a lot in Jonah. The first thing I want to talk about after that was what in the world was the problem with Nineveh. You know, again, I'm gonna go back to VeggieTales. You know, I'm like VeggieTale, like whatever VeggieTales. And you know, Nineveh. You know, the Ninevites in VeggieTales Jonah movie are represented by people that slap each other in the head with fish. Okay, and like, well, that's really disgusting and gross. That's not at all like what the Assyrians and the Ninevites were like. Okay, and Jonah, like, you know, Jonah was a prophet for several years before the Nineveh episode, so he knew God. Like, you can't, you know, you have to just believe that he knew God. He was used by God. So this wasn't just this like, oh God, you know, oh, who am I going to pick you? I'm going to send you. No, I mean, he had a relationship with the Lord. He had spoken, you know, many times to the Israelites, and he'd spoken to Jeroboam, and he was used by God. He had to have a relationship with God. So, you know, what was the problem? I mean, Jonah was used to, you know, giving difficult messages, because honestly in the Old Testament, that's kind of what the prophets did. I mean, it wasn't like, woohoo, there comes a prophet, party. It was like, Oh, great. Here comes a prophet. Get the kids in the house. I mean, it was not normally something that they celebrated, really. It was usually like, you guys are really messing up over here, and God's going to you got to stop, So, I mean, he was used to delivering difficult messages. He was used to talking to people that were out of God's will. I mean, that was nothing for an Old Testament prophet. So, I mean, what was the problem? So, if you trace the history of Assyria with Israel, it's not a pretty history. And like I said, the Assyrians did much worse than just slap each other in the head with fish. They were evil, evil people who worshipped other gods, crazy gods, did crazy things in part of their worship of these other gods. And they did not value human life at all. And so, and they were just always at it with Israel. Always at it with Israel. And so, like, if you put all of that together, and this is, Sharon's book of the Bible, according, to me. But I believe there was an excellent chance that Jonah himself had experienced the wrath, so to speak, the war of the Assyrians. It could have been his family. He could have had family members drug off and killed. He could have, we just don't know. But nowadays in America, we're not used to living that way. Like, we don't live that way. Like, we're not at war on the streets. We're not worried, every day about being attacked by the Assyrians. But they were. And so it's just like, had to be more than just, I don't care for those people. They're, they don't know the Lord. So to me, my pastor talked to us, several months ago about Jonah. And one of the things he said was, it would have been like someone who had survived the Holocaust, okay, a Jew that had been imprisoned in a camp, being asked to go to the very people that tortured him, killed his family. I mean, this was huge. Okay, this was not just a run-of-the-mill, everyday request by God. And so you just have to believe there was something that had happened in Jonah's life that made him so angry and hateful towards the Ninevites. And so basically, that's where our book begins. So God asked Jonah to go. Jonah's like, not happening, and he runs, and we know the rest of the story. So let me talk to you about what we're going to see in Jonah and why it's going to be really, really important. So the first thing that we're going to see in Jonah is a merciful God and a compassionless human. So basically, God being God, and this is how he ends the book of Jonah, why can't I be merciful? Why can't I? And my question is the same. Why shouldn't God be merciful? It's God's choice. God is God. God is the one with the plan of salvation. And if he wants to extend mercy, guys, he gets to extend mercy. Even if we don't understand it, even if we don't like it, even if we don't agree with it. It just doesn't make any sense. He gets to decide. And I'm in another study. We're studying the book of Galatians, which has been really interesting for me to study as a book, because I didn't realize how ticked off Paul was at Galatians. But he was pretty mad. And some of what he was mad about were there were people that were trying to go back, Jewish Christians that were trying to say that the Gentile Christians had to basically become a Jew before they could become a Christian. So he wanted them to become circumcised. He wanted them to go to all the Jewish festivals. He wanted them to, do all of these things that really, really ticked Paul off. Because he himself, was a Jew of the Jews. And he'd given all of that up because he realized that his righteousness meant nothing. And our salvation only comes through faith. Amen. And so he was really, really ticked off. And I feel like, the Jew, in the book it's called Judaizers. So here they were, they're like, okay, well, yeah. So like you Gentiles are saying, yay for you, be thankful. But we're up here above you. Like we're closer to God. We have more of a relationship with God than you do because we're Jews. Right? And I feel like I tend to do that, right? I feel like, God must love me more because, like my neighbors, they don't ever go to church. They don't go to church. I go to church. I'm on the women's thingy team. I do all that stuff. I go to all these Bible studies. So, honestly, God probably loves them like about right here, but he loves me up here, right? And guess what? I can't find that one in the Bible. It'd be great if I could find that one in the Bible. But here's the deal. God loves all of us equally, guys. Now, he may like some of our behavior better than others, but his love for every person is the same, and it is huge, great, right? So you think of the most like simple person that you know, God loves them the same as he loves you and me. You think of the person that is worshiping other gods, he loves that person as much as he loves you and me. You think of the person that is murdering innocent people, he loves them as much as he loves me. My husband and I finally got my man into New York City in January. That's one of my favorite places. And one of the things we did was we went to the 9/11 Museum. And I don't know how many of you have been. It is phenomenal. It is extremely well done. And it's just, it's beautiful in a lot of ways. But I will just tell you, I held back sobs the entire time. Every step. Just it brought it all back. I was a young mom of a 4-year-old at the time, and all of the fear, all of the unknown and uncertainty, and it just brought it all back about the loss of human life for no reason, all of it, So we left and we went to eat, and he was like, "What'd you think?" And I said, "Well, it was tough." I said, I'm glad I went. I feel like every American should go, but I would not want to go again because it was just too hard. And he said, "You know what? I just kept thinking more and more." He said, "I just kept thinking, let's just kill them all. Let's just kill them all." And he said, "But the Lord spoke to me and said, I died for them too."
That's right. That's right.
He died for them too, guys.
That's true.
He died for every single one of us. He died for the Muslim. He died for the murderer.
That's right.
He died for the person caught up in homosexuality,
That's right.
pornography. You think of the worst sinner you know, and his love for that person is just as great as his love for me. So I'm a part of a blended family. We have 5 kids between us, and I just have the baby. I have number 5.